In this video, we're really going to break down, or I'm really going to break down what's going on in the market with rates, with recession, with inflation, and do a lot of what I say that I'm not, and that's be the mortgage nerd and help to understand a little bit of what's going on out there and allay a little bit of the fears, whether it be that you're sitting on the fence about buying a home or whether you're considering taking an adjustable rate mortgage. So stick with me and stick with these slides, and hopefully this will help you in your pursuit to have a home, to either decide if you're going to buy now or if you're going to wait. And whatever you decide, it's okay, because what you decide is what's right for you. The big enemy of mortgage rates is inflation. That is, I don't know, call it saying the F word. It's a bad swear word when it comes to mortgages. When inflation is going on, interest rates are going to go up. That's just the way that it goes. And in these next charts, you're going to see that, the history is there, but there's also a lot of light at the end of the tunnel. Light at the end of the tunnel if you're a homeowner or want to be a homeowner, or if you're someone that's, thinking like, well, gee, in order to afford this house, I need to do an adjustable rate mortgage. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. So the reason that inflation is the enemy of mortgages is because of investors. So when investors, when it comes to mortgage-backed securities and they're lending out money, they've got a fixed asset, and they've got a fixed asset that is getting a certain amount of return. When inflation starts to happen, it erodes those profits. So again, the only way to combat this is to raise interest rates so that you can kind of stave off inflation. Now the Fed rate hikes. So when the Fed is hiking interest rates, historically, that has not affected mortgage rates. And I have had to have numerous conversations throughout my career when the Fed funds rate was being raised, saying, no, mortgage rates aren't going up. Guess what? They're going down, and explaining the overnight rate and how that doesn't affect mortgage interest rates. It still doesn't. And the other bad word here that we've got going on is recession. And what's that going to do, and what's that going to mean for real estate and for rates? So as we hop over to the next piece and the next slide here, we're going to talk about the Fed and seeing the history of what's going on. So back in the 70s, interest rates were running between 7 to 14%. 7 to 14%. Kind of crazy, right? Mortgage rates were running between 12 to 18%. And the federal funds rate was between 11 to 20%. As a response to that, and as the Fed was raising the overnight rate to help stave off inflation, that helped to bring mortgage rates down. We saw it with Alan Greenspan, and now we're seeing it again, and the predictors are there, and the data is there, that it is highly likely that we're going to see a recession at the end of the year or early next year. And if we do, there's light at the end of the tunnel. Light at the end of the tunnel for a potential to refinance. The other thing with the Fed is the Fed doing a runoff on their balance sheet. Now, a runoff on their balance sheet impacts interest rates. You can see how interest rates have reacted to that. Now we're going to talk about inversions. It's funny, I've said it for years, but I've realized, hey, you know what? I got to pay attention to this stuff. Because these are things that do affect the market. Typically, the longer that you invest, the better return that you have on your investment. When the 2-year Treasury starts to perform better, that leads to what's known as an inversion, and that's usually an indicator of a recession. So you can see in the 80s when there was a recession, in the 90s, in the 2000s, and so on. Next, we've got mortgage rates and recession. So here's where there's hope on the horizon. Hope on the horizon of these potentials for rate increases and mortgage rate increases. It's highly likely we're going to continue to see mortgage rates increase for a little bit. And that's just the reality. It's kind of the elephant in the room of a first conversation I'm having with someone of, hey, you're probably hearing what's going on. Don't be nervous. Here's why. If you look at the charts, you'll see when recessions happened, how interest rates came down. Again, when recessions happened, how rates came down. Now, what happens with housing? That's something that people are worried about. I don't want to be upside down in my house. The blip that we had was definitely during the crash, and the crash that happened back in 08, 09. Now, and as lenders and as an industry, I think the industry learned, hey, if you can fog a mirror, that's not always the best way to make a prudent decision on a mortgage. And as a result of that, that was a dip. That definitely was a dip with home prices. If you look at home values now, they're still higher than what they were during those peak years. From a stance of, is real estate a good investment? Hell yeah, I say. The other thing, supply, there's record low inventory. So back in 07, there was millions of homes. And now you look at homes currently from this chart, there were 870,000 homes available for sale with a pent-up demand. So you look at the amount of households. So with the amount of households in 2021 versus the amount of households in 2007, there is still an undersupply of inventory. How do we wrap this up? And how do we put this all together? One, you're never going to go wrong with real estate. Yes, you may see some dips with it, but it's one of the best ways to build wealth for yourself and for your family. And then two, there's hopes on the horizon for interest rates. Please like, subscribe, leave a comment, share if you've got any friends or family that are nervous. There's definitely good hope on the horizon. Thank you.